Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So a few months ago I invited 6 other YouTube mixed media artists to participate and collaborate in the creation of a zine. Now if you don't know what a zine is kind of like a small magazine with limited amounts of pages in it. Normally they're about ATC sized, but in this case I wanted to create something a little bit larger and do a postcard sized multi-page zine. So I invited Gina Ahrens, Linda Simpson, Louise Wiseman, Trish Rosima, Hanny Tromp and Kylie Koo to contribute a page, and the theme, I gave them a word and they had to create their little project piece around that word, and then combined they would kind of tell a little story or follow a theme. So I will show you how I created the front and back cover for the zine, and then at the end of the video I will show you all the other pages that everybody created for the complete project. And in the description area below this video there are links to all the other YouTube artists, so you can go off and watch how they created the pages for the zine. So I'll join with you again at the end. So as part of the creation of the zine, I'm doing the front and back cover. Now the back page is just going to have a list of who's participated in the hop and who did which page. The front cover is going to have the title and the main image on it, but I'm going to create the whole thing so that it's all one, so it looks like it's all one, even though it's actually 2 pieces of watercolour cardstock. So I have 2 pieces of watercolour cardstock cut at 4 inches by 6 inches, and all I've done is I've just stuck them together with a piece of masking tape. So I'm going to begin by decorating the whole thing as one separate piece. Now I have some pieces of an old sewing pattern, if you like, that's been printed on a kind of buff, almost apricot-y, almost skin tone paper with greenish print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this up and then I'm going to stick it down using an acrylic matte medium. Now that that's all stuck down and dry, I'm going to just grab a pair of scissors and trim off all the excess paper from around the outside, which doesn't take very long at all. It does help when you've got a decent pair of scissors. So once I've got rid of all those cut off bits and pieces, I'm ready to start layering some colour on the background. Now, normally I would put a cover of very thin gesso into the background on this, but I want to try and maintain this kind of colour here. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a colour wash of this indigo blue porcelain colour. This is part of the indigo blue Junk and Disorderly portrait paint collection, and this is the porcelain colour, which is a little bit lighter than the background on here. So I'm going to put a little bit of a wash of that onto the paper. I've got a paint mat here as well, which will allow me to just take a little bit of that paint. Don't want too much. And then I can add a little bit of water. And then just using a paintbrush, I can just mix that water in. The convenience about these mats is I can just carry it into the bathroom and then wash it off. And I'm just going to very randomly just go over and start to layer some of that paint over the top. No particular direction, just go over. That adds a nice lighter shade. I could have added some of the paint to the gesso and probably got a little bit more of a tooth, but you know, there are about 101 different ways that you can do the same thing. So let's get that dried off. So as you can see, now that's dry, it's gone a little bit lighter and it started to push that text into the background. It's not quite covered it as much as I wanted it to, so instead of adding another coat over the top, I'm actually going to go one step further. I'm actually going to bring in the medium beige paint, or beige paint, which is another one from the portrait paint. Now this is a little bit darker than the fair, as you can see. So I'm going to add a little bit of that onto the craft mat, and I'm going to mix that with the already watered down fair paint that's already on there. And that's just going to darken it a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more water. I'm not going to use all of this, just enough to give that a nice kind of uneven wash, like we did with the last one. Okay, let's get that dried off. So that's now nice and dry, and I'm happy with the colour at the moment with that. So I've still got the paint on my mat. Still managed to dribble it everywhere though. Everything's still kind of wet. I've just got a bit of a tissue down here. I'm not going to clean the brush off just yet, because I'm not particularly bothered about getting some of the colours into. I want them all to kind of mix together. Now, I also have from the same range the apricot blush. Now this again is darker, so that's the medium, and that was the fair. So this is much more kind of ruddy a tone. So I'm just going to take a small bit of this, add that to the mat, add some water. And I'm just going to randomly add some of that ruddy kind of tones into the background. But at the same time, I'm going to pick some more of that up and then blend that in so it's not quite such a shock. You'll see why. There is a particular reason. Okay. I'm happy with that. Again, let's get it dried off. I'm now going to introduce some more script into the background. So for that, I'm going to use the Collector's Edition number 2 French script, which is a small script stamp from Indigo Blue. And I'm just going to drop that onto that acrylic block, and then I'm using Tree Branch archival ink. I'm just going to lightly ink up the stamp and then just add a little bit of scriptiness, and that is now a real word, around excuse the noise. It's just an email coming through. I'm just going to randomly add those onto the page. And maybe a little bit more up there. That'll do. Just lightly into the background. So now that's dry, what I want to do is I want to try and push this back into the background even more. So this time I'm going to use my roundel stencil and I'm going to introduce some just some circles, but I'm also going to use that fair paint again. So I have some that's already in the lid. I've got a cosmetic sponge and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that paint using the sponge, and then I'm going to just have some very subtle circles just going into the background, just to blend out a little bit. As you can see, quite subtle, not in your face in any way, shape or form. I want the whole thing to be kind of soft. And then maybe just a little bit more, just get a little bit more of that paint. That should do. Just shake the bottle a little bit and then that will collect some more of the paint in the lid. Just get a little bit more onto the sponge, very, very subtly, and then just go through the middle. There. Happy with that. So heat gun, give it a blast, and then we can move on. So for the next stage, I have some old book text. This is some Cyrillic book text, and this time I'm going to be using the apricot blush and the rouge, and I'm going to do a mixture of just swiping the paint over the top of the paper, and then I'm going to spritz it with some water and blend the colours. So I've got two brushes and I'll use one for both. And while that's still a little bit wet, I'm going to spritz it with some water and then try to blend and push the colours together. So we get a kind of melding of those beautiful kind of pinky apricot-y tones. Plus we get the added benefit of the wordage starting to show through as well. You can see how those two colours have started to meld together, but we've still got a few tones of that pink. We can always add some back in again, just so we've got a nice kind of subtle blending. I've used the wrong brush, but never mind. That will do. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry these off, get the heat gun. So those are the two sheets now. They're nice and dry, and you can see that we've still got those really nice kind of apricot-y colours, but with those lovely pinks in there too, so a nice kind of mottled background. Now, the reason I wanted to do that was because I have this dinky rose stamp from Indigo Blue. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my potting soil archival ink. I'm going to stick my acrylic block down. I'll stick the stamp onto the acrylic block, and I'm going to stamp onto these book text pieces using that brown. I'm using brown rather than jet black because I don't want a total black image for the stamped flower. And I'm going to stamp that in the top corner. I'm not particularly bothered if I don't get a perfect impression, because that's not what we're after. Do the same again, and I'm going to cover, I'll get as many of these flowers out of the sheet as I possibly can. So I do apologise if I get my head in shot while I'm trying to position the stamp. Probably get 4 out of this. It's a nice kind of sketchy rose image. Brilliant. And then I'll get another 2 out of this one probably. There we go. So the next step for me is I now want to cut these out. So I have a pair of scissors. So I'm now going to try and fussy cut the flowers out. Now probably for me, if you've been watching my videos and following me for quite some time now, you'll know that my scissor skills aren't exactly brilliant, whereas my knife skills are a lot better. So I will probably do a couple of these with the scissors, and then I'll probably get bored, and then I'll finish them off with a knife. So I've started the one, so I will jump forward and I'll join you again when I've finished cutting out all these flowers, because I can also hear somebody creeping up the stairs, probably to talk to me. So I'll be back in a minute. So there are my 6 flowers all cut out. Now I've trimmed out that dinky French script stamp now. I've actually removed the outer side, and I'm going to bring back that tree branch archival ink, and I'm just going to very lightly stamp some of the script onto, just to introduce that kind of writing thing again back into it. It's just very subtle. Doesn't matter if you don't do it, but there you go. Okay, so time to bring back in my main sheet, like so, and then I have the potting soil archival ink again, and I need a clean sponge and a ink blending tool, if I can find one. There we go. And this time I have the Face number 3 stencil from Indigo Blue. This is a lovely stencil if you, like me, and you can't really draw faces very well. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my ink blending tool with potting soil ink, get plenty on there, and then I'm going to just very subtly, I'm just going to start and load through the stencil onto the background. And then when we take it off, we've transferred that lovely face onto our background. Now you can see why I wanted to keep that kind of light, fleshy tone in the background. So I'm now have my 6 flowers, and I'm now going to start to position around my head, or around my lady's head, like so. And it doesn't matter if these go over, like so. So I'm now going to glue those down. So I just need to wash my brushes and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've had a little bit of a tidy up. I've washed my brushes and I'm ready to start sticking down my flowers. Now, because I've used archival ink and acrylic paint, there's no danger of the ink and that kind of stuff reactivating again when I stick down using some matte medium. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a dollop of the matte medium on my craft table there. I have a brush, and then I can start to add the glue, stick it down, and then go over the top, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to work from the outside in, if you know what I mean. Love this stamp. It's absolutely so versatile that it can be pretty much used for almost any occasion at all. One more over here. And then the last one, I think if we're clever, so just to fill that little bit of a gap there, I'm going to cut off the top part of this flower and this flower here, which we're not going to need. Just trim that off as well so it's not in the way. And then let's grab those two pieces, and then I can literally just layer them in like so. If I just cut off one of the petals there, one of the petals there, I can then add some glue just on there, like so, and then that one can then go over the top, and you'll never know that I've pieced it together. And then we need to give it a quick blast, get it all nice and dry, and then I'll be right back. So all nice and dry, I'm going to just grab that rouge paint that we used earlier. And I've got a small detail paintbrush. I'm just going to take a little bit from the lid, and then I'm just going to very, very lightly paint in a little bit of colour. Brush isn't ideal. It's obviously a very old one. Trying just to stay within those lines. Just slightly fan out a little bit there, a little bit of definition. And I think I'm going to be happy with that. Quick blast. Okay, so now her lips are dry. I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back the ink blending tool that I had. That's still got some of that potting soil on. And I'm just going to lightly go around the edges. Actually, maybe a little bit dry now. Just to add a little bit of that colour onto the edge. Just to try and blend it all together. Create a kind of border and a frame. Because this is the front and the back cover of the zine, when this is finished, and when I have all the other images to put together from all the other participants, I will digitally add the title, because no matter how much I try, I'm not going to be able to get my best handwriting, and I don't want to make a mess of the front cover. So this will be done as two separate pieces, the front and the back, and then I'll add in the title of it when it's finished, ready for printing. So that is my front cover, front and the back cover for the zine. And this is the finished and completed zine. As you can see, the front page with the title Live Your Life With, and then we have the offerings from the other collaborators in the hop. From Gina, Beauty, from Linda, Wonder, from Louise, Hope, from Trish, Truth. We have Love from Hanny, and Honesty from Kylie. And on the back, list who's done which page, and cover and back page by moi. The finished zine. So I really enjoyed putting that zine together, and I think the artwork that the girls contributed to it really kind of gelled, even though they didn't know what they were doing, as in they didn't know what anybody else was doing. It was done in total isolation. So when you think about adding all those together to create the one piece, I think it turned out really, really well. So thank you once again to Gina, Linda, Louise, Trish, Hanny and Kylie for participating in this little video hop. And like I said before, if you want to see how they created their pages for the project, then there are links to the description, or in the description area below this. So that's all from me for now. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with all of your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel or any of the other girls' channels, then please do so, because obviously it really does help. So that's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible.